Hi, I'm Cody. Welcome to another training session. I'm coming from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in this training session I will show you how to install MySQL, the database server on Windows 10 that already has Apache and PHP installed. MySQL, some people call it MySQL, but it's really a preference and I just say MySQL. It does have an installation for Windows, so you don't need to download the files and manually configure. So let's begin. Let's go to just type in MySQL and we'll go ahead and go to downloads. I will also show you the graphical interface tools, and someone requested that I actually show the Workbench. It's a wonderful tool for Windows, and I've used it a couple of times, but I have a different tool that I prefer. We want the community edition. There are editions of MySQL that you could pay for commercially. Alright, so we want, of course, Windows. I'm just going to click on this installer 5.7. So it looks like it has only 32-bit. It won't be an issue. You can say no thanks, just start your download. The other graphical interface tool to use for the database server is called Php Myadmin, and one of the reasons why I like it is because you install it directly on your web server and you can access it just like you would a website. Of course, nobody wants to manage databases using the command line, so we have these free management tools that we could use. Php Myadmin is open source, but I don't believe the equivalent Workbench is. I'm going to pause recording of the video to let it download. MySQL has downloaded, and I'm just going to run it. You will, of course, need to choose a password to set up for the root on the MySQL. That's like the admin password. It will be a good idea. Looks like it's having issues here trying to open up. I actually paused to let it finish up for a moment. So I click yes. I suppose while it's downloading, because I don't remember if Workbench actually comes with installation, so I'll just see about downloading it. Same thing as before. Okay, so it looks like it may actually be included in the installation. So I'll see what happens with this MySQL installation. So you have a number of choices. It's been a while since I've looked at them. So developer default should suffice. Let me see if Workbench is in here. Yeah, there it is. Workbench. Hit next. Failing requirements. Okay. Requirement. So let me see if it will try and fix the problems automatically. So yes, I agree. See, this is another Visual C++ thing that it has to add. And one of the reasons these aren't on the system already is because it's a fresh installation of Windows 10. I'm using a virtual machine. But if I were to install things like Office programs or other Microsoft programs and even other third-party programs, these Visual C++ libraries typically are included. There it is. I'm just going to let some of these finish up. I'm going to go ahead and pause. Now I can hit next. Not been satisfied. Yeah, so you can still continue because you don't need some of these other items here. Say yes. So it's all ready to install, and I hit execute. As before, well, you could hit show details. But as before, I'm just going to go ahead and pause the recording. So all the components for MySQL have installed. And now time to configure. I like to show advanced options for things just in case there's something I want to configure in there. So let's just set a root password. And you could add user accounts. And of course it's weak. I'm just basically adding one. You can make it whatever you'd like. And of course you want it to be as a service in Windows. And this is what the name of that service will be. And you can choose whether or not you want it to start with Windows. Just general defaults here. And then execute. Looks like it came up with an error. I may eventually need to restart my virtual machine. It seems to be going a little bit slow, doing a little bit of extra processing. So we're just going to wait for it to try configuring. There it goes. Finish. Alright. Check. Next. Execute. And we haven't even gotten to the fun parts of MySQL. There is something you need to configure in the php.ini file though. And these are some of the reasons why going from Apache to PHP to MySQL is so important. Yeah, let's start the Mysql Workbench and go from there. So to get it to work on an actual website and to program in PHP to connect to MySQL databases, we will need to configure the php.ini file. But in the meantime, until we get to that part, let's look at the Workbench, which is a very handy tool to visualize your database. So let's add a connection. This one might be it. Yeah. So your root and then the password you set. That's it. Now this tool has so many capabilities. It's quite big actually, quite large. So I'll just leave it up to you to get familiar with it, to look at tutorials online. You can connect to multiple databases. Basically, do anything with the database. You've got your databases over here, your tables. So you can see, you can select your rows from that table. There's all different kinds of views, and yeah, it's pretty amazing what you can do here. All right, but that's installing the Workbench. As you can see, it got set up automatically with a MySQL installation, so no extra configurations there. Before we get to the Php Myadmin GUI for managing the database, because it uses a web server, we're going to have to configure PHP first. So back in your Apache, your PHP folder, in your php.ini, and I'm going to search for MySQL. It's an extension, and you can see that it's disabled, so let's enable it. There's another one though that's the MySQL I. There's another one without that I. That I is the most recent version and more secure version of the MySQL module. So we're going to have to enable it in PHP, just like that. And I believe you have to restart the Apache service also when you edit the php.ini. So let's do that. We're not going to test MySQL right now on the web server because we're going to download the Php Myadmin first. And that will allow us then to test if my MySQL is working right now. Compatible with PHP 7. That's good. That's what we have. You just find a download. It is a zip file, so we just copy the folder into our web server. And if you remember, the root of our web server is in htdocs. You'll notice this file name, but you'll want to rename the folder, and you can rename it to whatever you'd like, because you're going to be accessing it in a web browser. And I always make mine lowercase. And there's a configuration sample file I just copy and then paste in the same location so I can make a copy of it. Then I need to rename it to config.inc.php. Actually, before I edit that file, let me see what comes up here. So you go to localhost and whatever you just named it. Okay, so what's happening now is it's not recognizing the index.php as a valid source. In other words, it will recognize index.html but not index.php, like here. So when you go to the folder, it's not seeing the PHP extension there. That's called the directory index, and we need to modify the Apache configuration for that to work. Alright, so you got the index.html, and we just copy and paste and make that index.php. Okay, so I saved it, and remember we have to restart the service. So restart. Now let's try refreshing. I wish they'd put a refresh button here on the menu. MB string is missing. Let's see if it's in our PHP. There's MB string. So in the php.ini is where you enable modules. There it is. It's disabled. So let's enable it. Let me see if you have to restart the Apache service. I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah, we do. So let's restart it. We refresh. Let's try our credentials. Voila! We now have our databases. So this is the web interface version of a database management tool. It's a GUI, a GUI, so it makes it very easy to manage. And then we also saw the Workbench. Something that we really didn't get into was the command line version, and it's useful to know a little bit about the command line version, and a lot of what you'll need to know is also you could find referenced online. Looks like actually on this system the MySQL isn't coming up because we didn't set the environment path. I suppose we could do that. So it should be maybe around here. Yeah, there's MySQL. So we put this in the path. And then OK. Yeah. All right. So, and of course you can you can do a lot here, but of course this is very cumbersome and you only need it in rare circumstances. but stick with the GUIs like PHP Myadmin, what we saw today, right here, and then the Workbench also, that's up to you for your preference and what you'd rather use. That's about it. Just leave any comments, questions you might have. I'm Cody, coming from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, you could find me online, find me on Facebook. But that's it.